Hello!
Oh, hey there.
Didn't see you there.
Yep.
Today on Deskpop, we're talking about Batman being even edgier than he is already, the future of the movie theater industry, and the sea bass joke from Animal Crossing, and why some people hate it. And some people don't.
Some people don't care.
Today on Deskpop.
Yep. Hello.
Hi, howdy. Oh.
How are you on this one?
I am doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. My hair is growing back at different rates. I'm starting to discover instead of it growing at the same length everywhere, certain spots of it are growing longer than others. So there's like so my hair is starting to look a little wonky now.
Oh no.
And I've entered a delayed spring or early summer cleaning, I guess. Everything in my home is being cleaned and organized, and it feels good. So those are my two things.
Well, you can see that I have shaved my beard off.
Yeah, the Brian we know is gone. This is what is this name for this twin
gone.
This twin brother Brian?
Nierb. It's Brian backwards.
I wouldn't have been able to figure that one out.
Or is it Nairib? I don't know. I'm bad at this.
You got to be Wabrian. You're Wabrian.
Yeah. Wabrian.
Yeah, you have to have like a really clearly evil voice.
Hello, it's me.
I hate friendship.
Friendship is evil.
Yeah.
It's poison to me.
What prompted you to shave in the first place?
I've been bombarded with imagery of other people cutting their hair and shaving their beards, and so I figured that this was probably a once in a lifetime opportunity to do so and not feel self-conscious out in public. So I did it, and I am coming around to less facial hair, like this kind of stubbly look. I'm kind of coming around to this, but no facial hair. I felt like a naked mole rat. I felt like Gru from Despicable Me. I felt disgusting. And I never want to see myself that way again.
Having a 5 o'clock shadow is the ground floor for me. That's where you start. Yeah. I can't completely be clean shaven for those reasons as well. I just feel
Nature's
horrible.
Contour gives me my jawline.
Yeah, that's the weirdest part. When everyone's clean shaven, I feel like, or when I'm clean shaven, I look like a Dr. Seuss character. I feel like one. So, yeah. Well, it doesn't look bad.
Thanks.
So, and now we both have visual things in our aesthetics, that visual deformities that match the times that we're in. So when we look back, we'll have a visual indicator of how weird things are.
I did it right after last week's episode because I was worried that if I did it and hated it, then I would not want to record with video. But with the
that's fair.
Couple days, the week that I have had, it's started to grow. So,
and ironically, I mean, doing it to avoid going out in public. I mean, we're posting this video online, but I guess it's different because it's behind video.
Our podcast is not that noteworthy that I feel that everyone
our
is
massive
see
viewer
it.
base.
Yeah, I'm not too worried.
Well, let's go ahead and get our ranting and getting upset out of the way now.
Great,
because it's just
so that way we can
easier.
Start here and end here.
It's just easier that way instead of instead of the roller coaster just like slowly going up and then it falling, let's just start with a drop and then we'll build to something else. And so I think his name is Andy Serkis. He's the popular actor, popular motion capture artist behind characters such as Gollum and Caesar from the Planet of the Apes movies. He has been cast as Alfred in the recent in this new Batman film with Robert Pattinson. And he has been interviewed, and he said something along the lines of, this film will take a darker tone than other Batman movies, which I don't even think is possible.
I
just
can't even roll my eyes hard enough for that statement, because
Batman wasn't dark enough.
He is the epitome of like dark try-hard superhero.
Yeah.
Ugh.
The last Batman we've seen, the director, dude, Batman kills people. Wake the fuck up, people. And we're going from that to something edgier. What?
I feel like they always say stuff like that, you know, to I think people also, they start to believe it. Like, they're like, we're doing something so profound and different than anyone else has ever done. And then we're going to see the movie and it's going to be
exactly
just
the
another
same.
Batman movie. The only Batman thing that's ever surprised me, like the only thing that's ever interested me that's been different enough, has been the Ninja Batman thing.
Oh,
Did you ever see that
neat.
movie? It's very interesting, but I mean, everything else is the same. I mean, you got the campy Batman movies that are kind of different, and then like the older Batman show, which is super campy, but then now everything is edgy. So
yeah. Something about, DC's so disconnected from themselves as far as their media goes, because whoever's in charge of making the animated movies are always really experimental, and they always like go in different directions with it.
Yeah.
Like they made like the campy 1960s Batman, they made a film that took place in that universe. They made 2 films that take place in that universe, and they got the 60s cast to come back as their characters. And they really played up the whole like campiness of it. Like Batman gets in the bat rocket and goes to the moon to fight, whatever. He gives Robin a lecture about always using the crosswalk, even if they're chasing villains around the city. And it was great. But it's like the same, like 3 people are always in charge of making the live action stuff, like, or at least funding it. It's just, it needs to be boring. It needs to be dark. It needs to be dreary.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I don't think I told you, I watched The Killing Joke recently. Like, I just had this thing came over me, because you know how I feel about Batman. He's not my favorite.
Yeah.
But I was like, I've heard people talk about this and say it's good, so let me watch it. It was fine.
The movie or the book?
The movie.
Okay.
It was fine. It wasn't anything that I felt was so crazy different. I mean, there's one thing that happened in it that I was surprised by, and I was like, oh, but then nothing ever else comes from it. So, but one thing I'll say is, I haven't seen it, but I'm asking, have you seen the Harley Quinn animated series?
Yes, and I very much enjoyed it.
I've seen like snippets from it that make me really want to watch it. Like, I'm like this close to getting DC, whatever their streaming services. It's one of those things where it's like, there's too many streaming services and I don't want to have to get another to watch something else.
Yeah. Well, you can get like a free 1 month.
Maybe
if
I'll
you just put in your info
trial
and cancel it.
But it's the like extra work of having to like sign up for it.
That's what Brantley did. He got a free 1 month, and then he binge watched all the exclusive content, and then he unsubscribed before it actually charged his card.
Yeah, it's not the like paying for it, which is also frustrating to pay for like a whole bunch of services, but it's just the work of having to sign up somewhere and do all that.
That's fair. I used to have that mindset, and then the quarantine started, and now I'm just like, I got all the time. Time doesn't even matter. I have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
The longest part of the process would be me after I have the service, trying to find what to watch first. But it adopts a very similar tone to the Birds of Prey movie. If you enjoyed that, it's like
the
it's
writing
very
seemed
similar.
funnier, and the like Birds of Prey didn't seem like too funny to me. Like I liked it, but the snippets, I don't know why I call them snips, the little clips of the Harley Quinn show, the animated show, looked really funny. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's
They went some places I didn't expect an animated show to go.
it's funnier. It's funnier than the movie, but like just in the first couple minutes of the first episode, Harley Quinn uses a hammer and smashes someone's leg, and like his leg bashes, and you see the bone sticking out, and there's like several jokes about various animals biting others, genitalia off, and all sorts of it's so weird watching them with no limits being able to say and do whatever they want, and not, most Batman media, they dance around the subject, but then Harley Quinn is just this movie that there's blood and gore and swearing, and it's neat. I enjoy it.
The one
Robin
last thing
is
I'll
voiced by
say,
like a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a child, like an actual child, but he still looks like a teenager, and it's really funny. Like
that's like a cat bug in Bravest Warriors. Have you seen that?
No.
He's voiced by like a toddler, and so he says like one-liners that like a toddler says. It's so funny.
I'm Catbug. What is his name? Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Gordon is like just like this crackpot nut job who's like almost he doesn't say it outright, but it's almost as if he's like totally aware that he's been a character in a comic book for over like 60 years. It's all great.
The one last thing I'll say before we move into the meat of what you really wanted to talk about, I think, or wait, was that it?
Oh, I just saw the whole like
the edgier.
Oh, Batman's gonna be super dark, and just thought that was a great opportunity to
before we get back to that,
to shit on Batman super
I'll say
fast.
one last thing about the DC animated universe. I would be remiss not to say that about all the news about John Constantine apparently having sex with King Shark. That is the thing that happened. That is canon now.
It is canon. Good for them.
Good for them.
That is our desktop couple of the week. So good for them.
Did you say desktop?
Desktop shit. Son of a bitch.
But yeah, no. So how are they gonna make this edgier? How would you think? How would you make Batman edgier?
How would I make Batman edgier than he already is? Well, if we want to follow other rumors that came from this same movie, people speculated that the removable bat thing that's on his chest was forged from the same metal of the gun that killed his parents. So, if that's true, we're already pretty edgy. Let me see what else. If there's like, there might be the only other thing I could imagine that would make Batman edgier is if at the end of the movie he has to like sacrifice his girlfriend or something in order to like not kill a villain, and that just adds more dread. I don't know. If Batman inadvertently kills someone in the first movie, then we get to see that person come back as a fucking phantom for the rest of the movies, guilting him.
Is it like, so maybe it's edgier in the way that like, so the last part of the I can't even think of the word. The last movie in the like Dark Knight series, there was like a happy ending for Batman, right? Like it wasn't a bad ending.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what they mean by like the ending of this movie will be bad. Like he won't get to run away with Catwoman and
I don't know how you can make Batman like maybe shoot the movie in black and white. Like
but they already pretty much do that. They desaturate these movies so much that they all look the same. I hate that about DC movies. That's the visual difference between a Marvel movie and a DC movie is that Marvel seems to inject more color in, which is more entertaining and exciting, and
Yeah.
more like a comic book. Go figure. And DC seems to suck it all out and put this weird like desaturated filter over everything. And I'm like,
Well, it's
what?
DC desaturated.
I'm just like, what
That's
are you
what DC
doing?
stands for.
No one wants to see this weird. Like Aquaman was kind of a shift in that, I feel like, but and so was
Yeah.
Birds of Prey, but
The DC slate is really fucking weird because their live action successful properties are Wonder Woman.
I guess Wonder Woman, the new one looks like it might be full of color
Yeah.
based on the promo.
Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Shazam are the three
Shazam was good.
franchises right now that they can carry forward. And Shazam is like this weird middle place of like the monsters and villains he fights are like very desaturated, very
Yeah.
realistic, not cartoony at all. But Shazam himself is like really colorful and lighthearted. But those three, and then you have Birds of Prey, which critics seem to like. A lot of people liked it.
It was fun.
But I don't think financially it did well.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I very much enjoyed that movie. But I don't think it financially did well. So yeah, moving forward, I think Ezra Miller's Flash is still happening, which is a follow-up to the Justice League, which is still in this like weird, dark universe that's a clusterfuck of like where Robert Pattinson's Batman is that in this universe. Harley Quinn mentions it in Birds of Prey.
I never saw Justice League because I never saw Batman versus Superman either. Those are just not, they don't interest me.
You'd probably get the same effect of just watching a YouTube comp of all the shitty scenes of like the Justice League movie. Just seeing, like, I know it's like a big meme to say it, but it's honestly true. Superman's face looks like an abomination because they CGI'd his beard off. And so it looks like just like a floating pair of lips over like a blurry. It looks like he has a Snapchat filter. He looks so stupid.
Yeah.
God. On a DC related note, though, it's really funny how they're like, release a Snyder cut, blah, blah, blah. And it's understandable because like the director had to step down due to like family tragedy and they replaced him. But like with Joss Whedon, why change the vision and the script of the original person working on what? How, did he think it was going to work better? Do you think you were like, oh, I'm respecting him by not doing his vision for this movie that I'm being trusted with?
Remember last week when we were looking for things to be upset about Joss Whedon for?
Oh yeah, there we go. Here it is.
Here it is.
Ask and you shall receive. And the next thing is, I think his name's David Ayer, the director of Suicide Squad. He was like, yeah, I feel really bad for Jared Leto. Like, all the best Joker footage from that movie was just unused and no one's ever seen it. And just like, maybe the footage wasn't that good because you didn't put it in the fucking movie. Like, if it was so good, why isn't it in the movie?
Yeah.
You like, what's with DC and not like, they really love like saying like, oh, we're dangling this like nice treat in front of you guys. Like, oh, but like this is the best thing ever.
That's the thing about DC that I feel. It's all the writing is for the characters. I don't like the characters. So that's like, we're starting off on a place.
Yeah.
I know they're very popular and like Batman and Superman are way more iconic in terms of like recognizability than a lot of the Marvel characters, but they're just like cardboard cutouts of people. Like, they're not interesting. And then you desaturate all the color from the movie. You take away so you're basically taking away all this visual interest, for whatever artistic vision, whatever. And then just, it's the writing is not as good either. So I feel like you can say that as much as you'd like, oh, there's a better version, or like, oh, there's this great footage, but there's a difference between like showing someone like, oh, here's here's the Avengers. It's wonderful. It's great. It's fun, And then here's Justice League, and I haven't seen it, but then you're like, let me try and make it seem better by saying there's other stuff about it, like
Yeah. It's just weird, and I don't. It's like, why? I'll stop there. I'm just gonna get sad. It's just like there's so many opportunities to make, because I think Marvel does oversaturate this genre. If you want to call it a genre, because there's like so many subgenre. Like you can have a superhero, but it could still be a Western or a sci-fi or whatever. But like, the only good comic book movies seem to be coming from Marvel. And it doesn't seem to be because every other movie that comes out is Marvel. It seems to be like the alternatives are so gritty and so serious, and they keep going in that direction.
They just
maybe spite it. I don't know.
I feel like they
you miss
think
out on
it's
cool
gotta
things.
work eventually. It's gotta work. It's gotta work.
Well,
people love Batman.
Well, it's because Christopher Nolan ruined DC movies, because the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy was great. Like, I like those movies. They're cool. He had his own style with it. They're iconic, whatever. But then this, like, well, Tim Burton kind of started it as well, but it just went in this direction of like, all right, well, these were super successful, so now the standard is every movie we make now needs to be very grounded and serious, and ask these like moral dilemma, like give you a moral dilemma, like,
which is not always what people want.
There needs to be, it's. I
mean, the Joker did well, and that was kind of the same thing.
That's another one. Like, it's like they got lucky, and now that gives them like even more reason to be like, oh well, see, like we got to keep doing it. We got to keep going in that direction. But yeah, it would just be nice to see something that's not Marvel, and it be good, because it's not like I want to not like these movies. I can agree with you, but there is something exciting. Like it's like a snowball. Like now, like it's building up as it's rolling down this avalanche or this like hill. It's like, because it's this connected universe, like, they all try to be, but because Marvel has been successful in connecting this universe and like bringing everything together, all the movies kind of like, even if they're not as strong, have this automatic excitement and this automatic level of like, oh yeah, it's great just because it's part of the universe and like it's fun, Mm-hmm.
I can imagine other things going on or how this is going to connect. Like you start to think about those things, and that gives you you're almost imprinting that on the movie, like, oh, what if this person meets up here, or like, whereas these movies, I'm like, well, they're not going to do well, and they're going to make one or two movies and then they're going to stop and make another attempt at this
reboot.
franchise. Like, not going to get too invested.
The cinematic universe is still going on. Let's just reboot the Joker. Let's just make a new Batman.
Yeah, like, what? That is so confusing for viewers. You know what I mean? Like, what?
Yeah. I think I always thought it'd be neat if DC went the route of their... every other DC animated movie is in this connected universe, which is kind of interesting because they announced that their latest animated movie will be the last one that's in this like art style that's in the same universe as their last several animated movies before they just start over. But beforehand, every animated movie was like this anthology series where there are completely separate stories, separate universes, one and done kind of things. And I always thought it'd be cool if the live action DC movies were an anthology series where some of them it's Batman versus Superman, but then the next movie is just a Superman movie. But maybe Batman's in that one as well. Maybe Batman's in there too, or there's a Flash, but like it's completely different. It's a different universe. It's like, and maybe I always thought that would be neat.
It's kind of inadvertently turned into that though.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's true. But if we just push that further, like,
but if you like announce that was the official vision, like, oh look,
yeah, because it like in Robert Pattinson's Batman, right? What if Wonder Woman he just teams up with Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman's a different actress, and there's not like this big build up or like
oh, this is the Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, he teams up with her to go do this thing, and like in another movie, like Batman shows up with Wonder Woman and it's a different actor. It's just a different thing. I thought that would be neat, and it would be different enough from Marvel, but also fun enough to be like, I don't know, do successful.
I think
or
you're
be
right.
Successful.
I think that would have been a really cool way for them to try and do this, but I feel like they probably by this point are just blinded by the fact that Marvel is continuing to do better, and they have these, they have the Dark Knight trilogy, and they've got the Joker, and they're gonna keep doing stuff like that because that's what they did well. And
one question that is kind of the beginning of a series of sentences that will eventually change the topic. Andy's Word Olympics here. Do you think we'll see the downfall of the MCU as far as it financially doing well and in our lifetime?
No, I don't think I will.
Or do you think that it's just going to consistently
that's
be
kind
successful?
of a loaded question. Just because I feel like eventually everything will see like a diminishing return, so to speak. Eventually it's not going to be as successful as something else. But I feel like
I'm just curious if it's like if they're going to try to end it all, like finalize it.
I think
on a high note, or if they're going to crash and they're going to, regardless, they're going to take a lull and then reboot it,
Yeah, I think we'll see that for sure. Like, I think we'll see, I don't think it'll be 60 years. I have a feeling like, I don't know. I feel like we've got maybe another 10, 20 years of this. And then maybe we'll see some different stuff that's not in this universe, that's, I don't know.
Yeah, what I was saying with the 6 years thing was like either A, it's going to keep going, and then eventually a movie will do bad enough to where they kind of just stop, 6 years passes and they start over, or they try to end things on a high note. They create an artificial pause for 6 years and they bring it back, similar to like Star Wars or whatever, where it's like,
yeah, I could see that. I feel like whatever they do, it will end in a climactic movie. I don't think it'll end on a like, oh, we did
on a whimper.
We tested a new hero and it didn't do well, so let's just stop now. I think there will ultimately be some sort of big battle that will change a lot of stuff. But I mean, right now we just got off of the big battle from the Infinity War saga, so who knows when we'll see another big battle. But I have a feeling we'll see, maybe in our lifetime. I think we'll see the downfall of these movies. I don't think it'll be a downfall necessarily, but so to speak,
they're gonna take a break or something.
I think they will create the demand by bringing it to an end, so to speak, and then I'll stop using my hands to talk because that seems to make my webcam freak out. Wow, what a show off.
Look what I can do.
Wow. I don't know. I think it's interesting to think about because I haven't ever thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's weird because they've invested so much money and so much time in creating this universe that where do you even start if you're in charge of rebooting this? Like it can't be like they're just gonna have to just keep staying in this universe forever. I don't know.
I mean, that's a possibility. They could,
I mean, the next Iron Man starts and the reboot of Iron Man is just going to be like, oh, I was inspired by the original Iron Man, and I'm gonna.
They have enough characters that they could go on for,
It's like a 22 movie franchise. Like, how do you reboot that if you're starting?
I don't think they would reboot.
Over.
I don't think they would do the same thing if they were to reboot it. I think they would reboot the movies that did well, the characters that were very popular, and I think they would not do certain things like Ant-Man and the Wasp, and like they wouldn't redo those things. You know, they would just like leave that. Maybe they would try a different character in that Avenger slot.
But just like starting from square one of like, all right, well, we're like, that's just strange to me. Starting from scratch with something like that. So who knows? But
do you think we'll see the death of theaters in our lifetime?
I don't know. Like, I think a lot of people like going to movie theaters. But my friend group that I'm a part of, I was like one of two people in our friend group who really enjoyed couch co-op games. Oh, I like friends coming over, playing games together on the couch or whatever. Like, you know, a new co-op game comes out, come over, we play it. And everybody else is like, oh, well, you could just do it online. Like, why would you even?
Why would you see each other?
it's just the same thing, but it's just like better, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I think that mentality probably goes with like theaters. Like, I still prefer when a movie comes out to see it in the theater, but at the end, it's not ultimately my decision. If all my friends are like wanting to like, oh, well, we can all just like come over and like watch this like movie like on Netflix, or we could just stream it on Discord, or like, why go to the theater? I won't really have a choice, because like I go to the theater with like my friend group, and if everybody's wanting to like watch it on video on demand, then like I'm probably not going to go to the theater. So
yeah, but like, so like I go to the theater like with Aaron on like dates and stuff, you know? So I mean, stuff like that would still happen. I mean, I feel like people will return after, you know, all this is come, you know, a lot more stable, and you can live in the outside world. And I
feel like be where the people are.
Basically. But I mean, I feel like after this, people are going to flock to, you know, social spaces like the theater. And so
I definitely think there'll be like places like that will probably have an initial like boom when everybody's like released.
Yeah.
But then I think it might, I think studios are, because we've never really had an option before. It's always just been theater or wait for it to come out on digital.
I feel like there have been some movies that toe the line. Like, there are movies that while in theaters, I have seen them like as on pay-per-view, and like there are things like that, but this is the first situation we've ever had where it's like no one can physically go to theaters, so they are choosing to forego that and release it video on demand instead. So yeah, I don't know. This is definitely an interesting experiment.
I've never been aware of like theatrical films releasing on like online before.
They don't usually release before, but I know for a fact there are films that will release in theaters and subsequently, like at the same time, will release via pay-per-view or some other format that you can view at home.
Yeah. The only time I ever remember that happening and I've never like looked.
They're usually shitty movies.
Just but putting that the interview, never came out theatrically, and they just surprise dropped it on Netflix, and it was like this crazy thing. Yeah. But now that this is happening, you know, if people do have the choice, I'm curious if the masses will all kind of start picking movies to watch at home instead of a theater, because it's kind of weird. It's kind of like I don't know, like I see myself, if that is an option, having like date night in the house, and like, oh, we can have like a movie night and watch this like movie. It's like a new movie that just came out.
You don't want to go like do something?
I mean, sure, but there's like
just do everything from your home.
There's like a different vibe to it, you know, like you can like make a home cooked meal and watch a movie that like you've never seen before. It's not something that has been out forever, so you like, I feel like we have different, like,
because I love going to the theater.
I love it too, but I'm just saying that
there is no world in which I would, if presented both options, would choose just being at home to do it. Like I would rather go to the theater.
I see
It's
a good
also, it would
argument
also
for
be
both.
cheaper technically because the prices that they're releasing the video on demand movies are higher than ticket prices. So I don't know.
What is it, like $20?
Yeah, which I mean, I pay like $10 for, actually less than that for like a
Because
one
like
ticket.
movie tickets are like $8, so it's
Yeah.
like $16 for two people. Like assuming it's like a date,
Yeah,
and then you're buying popcorn and
I don't buy all
your
that.
drink, and
Maybe
So you just-
Reese's Pieces sometimes.
interesting.
Do you not like
Yeah,
those?
I see a good argument for both. I prefer movie theaters, but since I've never had the option before, like I'm very interested to give that a try. Like I don't think a movie has released digitally that I'm super into or care about, but so I haven't really like bought a movie that released to watch it at home. But I'm interested to give that a try and see how that feels.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I watched Trolls too. I know you were talking about watching it. I watched that video on demand and it was fine. I mean, I watched it by myself, so it wasn't like I was, and that's kind of what I'm comparing it to. Like, if I was going to go to the theater by myself and spend $10 versus watching things by yourself for 20 is kind of like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like the studios will probably love that, because maybe they're making more money that way. I mean, because they're not having to whatever expenses a theater.
They're not sharing profit with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
theater. Yeah.
So I don't know, but I feel like
It's
it won't
actually,
go away.
I don't think it'll go away either, but I definitely like us having this option is definitely going to affect things. Like assuming they keep this, assuming all the studios like continue releasing things video on demand and releasing things theatrically when all this is over, because this is all under the assumption that they'll keep doing that, which like I think it's a 50-50. I don't see why you wouldn't. It's like
I think
you're
they
just
won't,
making more.
just because in general, like what we've seen, the one theater in particular, AMC, being upset about that. I think that they will strike. What do you call it? I think they will strike deals in a sense where it's like, okay, the theater will get the movie like 2 weeks before or something like that, and like you'll get the 2 weeks in theater, and then it'll stay in theater, and then they'll release a video on demand option. I'm sure they'll work out some sort of deal like that, because I just can't see a world in which theaters are like, oh man, the studios, they're releasing all their movies. Like the theaters are gonna get upset about that, and like
Yeah, but I feel like the theaters are more at the mercy of the studios than the other way around, because
They-
I think
they
like we've
are.
seen that like. So I think it's more of either they'll accept that things are being released digitally and also have the movie in their theater at the same time, or they're just going to continue to, like, I guess, not have those movies in their theater, which is kind of silly to me. Because
I don't know. I just have a feeling it's not as cut and dry as we're seeing. I know it looks like, okay, the theater is more at the mercy of the studios, but I just like, there's something in me that's like, I feel like there's something there that they can't just do that. And, because maybe they can, and maybe I just feel, I don't know. There's something about that makes me feel like there's got to be something that prevents them from doing that, because why would they not have done that earlier?
Yeah, I think movie theaters in general are such a staple part of, I guess I'll say, American life. Like that's just such a, like that's what you do. Like on the weekends, you see the new movie at the theater with your friends and stuff, and like date nights, you go to the movie. Like it's such a like, it's important, I guess. Like it's this big thing, and so we're all used to just having that, and the idea of it being replaced with something else or it not being there is really hard to imagine because we've always had that. But I definitely think that it's a possibility. It could be replaced with something else. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
I could totally see a scenario in which movie theater chains as we know it kind of go away, and their movie theater chains that would still exist, but they would be higher end. They'd be like the ones that like,
like,
everyone gets a blanket, and
like the iPic movie, the more boutique movie theaters that you're going for like a purpose, like drive-ins or
I see things going in that direction.
It's possible,
definitely,
for sure. The thing about the video on demand releases that I really wanted to get into is that Scoob is coming out in 3 days, so like a day or two after this podcast releases.
I am really fucking hyped because if this does well, this is the launch of the Hanna-Barbera verse, which is like insane to me that we're going to have a series of movies that are all within the same universe featuring the Flintstones, the Jetsons,
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
Space Ghost is in that universe.
Space Ghost is gonna. That's
I love
weird.
Space Ghost.
Wacky races.
Wacky races. Yeah.
Like, please God, give me a Wacky Races movie. That'd be fucking sick.
What wasn't that the whole thing of like Scoob? Wasn't it? Isn't that gonna be the thing? I thought you had mentioned that the dastardly whatever.
Yeah, he's the main villain of this film. Yeah.
So,
but I'd want a movie that's just like entirely centered around like a bunch of like wacky characters doing this crazy race and like this like animated Mad Max styled thing. Yeah. But I'm really hyped for that. That'll probably be the first video on demand movie that comes out that I'm actually really hyped to see.
Josie and the Pussycats are also part of that universe too.
Is that a Hanna-Barbera property or was that licensed from Archie?
It might be licensed, but they definitely have a Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Yeah, definitely. What's the one with like the fucking the talking shark? Yeah,
Jabberjaw.
I don't get no respect. Jabberjaw!
I love that one. And
you gotta get that and the talking dune buggy.
The talking dune buggy, yeah.
All the Scooby-Doo knockoffs.
All the characters are just the same.
Yeah, they're all just hippies solving mysteries with the talking blank. That's got to be in the Scoob movie. There's going to be a scene where
I hope they do
run into all their clones.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it just says produced for. It's a Archie Comics comic book series of the same name, produced for Saturday morning television by Hanna-Barbera Productions. So I don't know what that means.
I feel like Archie still owns the rights to those characters, but Hanna-Barbera probably gets money off of sales of whatever cartoon
I don't know.
stuff.
I have a feeling they might, if this, usually when those kinds of things happen, when like,
wait a minute, I think Archie's owned.
I was going to say there's a parent company probably.
Yeah.
Because Archie's probably owned by WB or whatever. Like Warner
because
Brothers.
Riverdale's on the CW, and the CW has all the DC stuff, so I'd imagine that's owned by Warner Brothers.
So it's probably owned by the same parent company, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
So if they wanted to, they could.
Wow, you're right.
John Constantine bottomed for a shark.
Jabberjaw?
He bottomed for Jabberjaw.
Oh, Jabberjaw. Yeah, that reminds me. Video on demand. Okay, so you mentioned like let's rewind things a little bit. You mentioned you'd rather see even if you were by yourself, you'd go to the movie theater.
Yeah, you know this saga personally. I'll let you finish, but I went and saw a movie by myself for the first time, Detective Pikachu. I saw it. I told you when this was happening, but yeah, it's great.
I see movies by myself occasionally as well, but it reminded me of the time that I saw Cats by myself, and then it reminded me that the digital on-demand version of Cats that released is the uncensored, the unpatched version of the movie.
The butthole version or a different version? Oh, wow.
Yes, the one where they all have human hands, but they don't have the one before they patched the movie and added more fur to everybody and made things a little bit more
I gotta
or
see that
less
version
realistic. Yeah, so that's the thing on Amazon on demand. The version I thought that would strike your fancy. So I made a mental
fancy
note so
feast,
I could.
maybe.
I'm gonna fucking throw up. But yeah, so there you go. If you'll have to give us an in-depth review of it, I will not watch that movie ever again.
I'll watch it with Dana. We'll get a Discord
Yeah.
movie night.
There you go. You'll finally get to see.
Did she ever watch it?
That. No.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll do a Discord movie night.
Yeah.
We'll watch the butthole version of Cats.
Butthole version of Cats. Yeah. When cats trust you, they show you their butthole to show you how clean it is. I've been told. I've never looked it up because it just sounded real, and I was like, I don't care enough to. But they're showing you their butthole to like show you how like it's clean.
Wonderful.
As you do. Yeah.
When I do that, people get mad. Yeah, no, so I feel like that's all I think we should talk about Scoob, because we'll probably talk about it, next episode more. But yeah, what else is going on in the universe? There's a news story out about the guy that wrote the Animal Crossing joke for catching sea bass. Sea bass looks more like a C plus or whatever to me or whatever.
Yeah.
He's come out and said he's tired of the joke. And also that it originally was supposed to be C minus bass, but they changed it to put a more positive spin on the joke.
Yeah, I think that's I thought it was a really cute story. I never really got annoyed with that line, just because games in general, you usually see the same line again and again when you win a battle. It's like the same jingle, and it's like you got this, and this. You put it in your inventory, like I think the fact that they put the extra effort into making it a positive joke makes me like it that much more, as opposed to getting annoyed that it's the same joke again and again and again. But I can understand why people would get mad with the same line, but there's just so much text in that game anyways that like
I just feel like
I don't personally care.
Have you kept playing the game? Have you been playing it?
I still play occasionally, but I definitely have hit a lull in the last maybe week.
I just feel like there's no reason why they couldn't have done, especially for the very common fish, they couldn't have done more, like added a variation of jokes, I just feel like that would have been nice. Or maybe sometimes you don't get a joke, like if you've already caught a fish, like you catch it and it's like, sea bass, great.
If out of those two, I feel like just not hearing the joke a second time, maybe. But yeah, I have no preference on it. It's just like I just press the A button one additional time to skip it. It doesn't hinder my experience. It doesn't ruin the experience for me.
It's just, I think people are upset because it's like, okay, you see a long fish, because I've experienced that. You see a long fish, and then you fish it, and your expectations here, you're like, it's going to be something great. And then it's a sea bass, which is like, okay, well, that sucks. Yeah. And then you see the message of like, sea bass, more like C plus or whatever. I was like, like, okay. Like, it kind of rubs salt into a wound, like, great, yeah, I know, I wasn't happy anyway. Thanks for repeating that line again and again and again.
I'm hurt that you're hurt, but I'm gonna have to open up my glass case and press the but it just it does not affect me at all. Like it very I feel like I'm usually the one to have like the
I think it's because
I want to say hot take, but
I think you don't. I don't think this is the hot take. This is like the very common take. So you're still having the hot take, but it's. What do I want to say? It is.
I guess what I want to say is like I'm usually the one to like complain or jump on like the man, like that's really annoying. Why can't they remove it or change it or whatever? Like I'm usually not team. Like I don't care. Vibe.
I think if the solution was something really complex, it would bother me, or it wouldn't bother me maybe as much. But just like knowing that it wouldn't be hard to add a variation to like a line of dialogue, I feel like that bothers me. Like, there's all this other detail in the game, and this one little thing, and I'm sure after seeing all this, they probably will patch something to make some sort of change, I would imagine. Because that's what they did about the whole Easter Bunny thing, too. People complained about that, and they ended up patching it and making less eggs appear, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe.
They're clearly listening to feedback.
I think, like, maybe when they were working on the localization, they were given the list of fish, but they didn't know how common each fish was. So each thing got one joke. And then the developers affected the common factor of the fish. But then
I would agree.
Even then, like, they could just add more variety to you catching the fish. So you just, instead of adding more lines or whatever, when you're already, like, writing all of the dialogue or for the localization of this game, you're like, because not only do you have to write the joke for the English version, but you're going to have variations for, like, every other language. And it's not just, like, translating it. It's like you need 5 jokes that are like.
But if you think in terms of, like, this is the most common fish, this is the only one we really need to do this to. You know what I mean? That's more what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking every fish needs multiple lines. I'm thinking this is the one you catch the most often. So this one should have a little variety, so that way catching it is not as boring. But so the thing about it is, and I can't necessarily fact check this right now, but someone told me that when you catch a squid, there are multiple lines. There are 3 lines when you catch squid, and that's the only fish that has that. Whereas, like, the sea bass would probably be a better candidate for that. And so I think that's why I feel that way. Knowing it's a possibility, and knowing that they did do that for one fish, but it wasn't the most common fish. But yeah.
Sure, maybe.
It's not world ending.
Yeah. I feel like there's, like, lots of other things that you catch all the time as well, like bugs.
I feel like
stuff.
you haven't played the same game as me. I feel like you haven't fished as much.
I mean, it's just.
I feel like that's why you're not as mad.
It's just a line, you know. You just press the A button. And
okay.
Don't read it if you don't.
Let me turn on my Switch and see when the last time you played was. Yeah.
Shrug emoji.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and I hope they patch that for you.
Thanks.
I'm sure they will. That game has done well.
Let me be clear. I'm not mad,
no
but your lack of reaction is making me more upset about the topic. Just so you know, you're, like, nonchalant, like, oh well, that doesn't affect me. It's making me more incensed. Oh well, that must suck.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's whatever. It's a good game regardless.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is my payback for Lego.
Okay.
Yeah, this is my. Yeah, I don't. Animal Crossing is so popular, and so it's done so well that there's no way that there's not, like, a dedicated group of people listening to the community, more so than just regular online games. I'm sure this is, like, they are putting extra effort into this, especially like, I didn't even know the Easter Bunny thing was, they even changed that. I know that people were really vocal about it. So yeah, I'm just curious. Like, I think it's a slippery slope, because I hope it doesn't turn into, like, a Pokemon fan base type thing where it's like they patch this joke and then soon there's, like, a huge outcry about, like, another thing now that this problem's fixed, and then it just keeps happening.
I feel like that's kind of like a fake, like, that's like a straw man theory. You know what I mean? That's like, I'm
not saying that, like,
yeah,
I don't want them to patch it. I'm just saying that, like, because I've seen the outcries on Twitter as well.
Sure.
And maybe I'm not, like, since I'm not hardcore into Animal Crossing as much as I was when I first started. Like, it being on the outside, it looks worse than I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But just.
I just feel like that's one of those things that's like, oh, we can't legalize weed because then we'll have to legalize, like, meth. Or, like, it's just one of those things where it's like, no, I mean, I feel like people are, you know, within reason. It's like, I understand it's a frustrating thing because having played
Yeah.
the game and having like fished up as many sea bass as I have, it's frustrating. And it's just a tiny thing, but it's also kind of become a meme a little bit of like, like this fucking annoying line that everyone keeps, you know, like, you know, you keep seeing, and so it kind of makes you mad. And like, it's not that big of a deal. And I know I haven't seen anyone that's like been truly mad about it. It's just one of those things where it's like, it's just the only
Sure.
reason it's newsworthy is the writer of the joke said something about it.
What do you think they're going to? What is your prediction of them? Because there's no way they're not going to address it. Do you think that they're going to add more lines, change the line, or no line entirely? Like you hear the
They're not gonna
joke
do
once
that.
and then you don't hear one
No,
after.
they're not gonna do that. I have a feeling they're gonna introduce a couple more lines. I mean, I feel like that wouldn't be a hard solution. You know, you think up a couple more lines, and like I said, I don't think people really care about the other fish getting that treatment. I feel like there's just that one fish in particular that you see all the time that's like, okay, that one could use a couple more lines to add a little variety to the game. But other than that, I mean, you know, if everything else stays the same, I think that would be fine. I think that's what they'll do.
All right, and on that future prediction, I think that's where we're gonna have to leave you today.
Yep.
Have to start walking. We're gonna think up some better jokes for the sea bass.
Yep. We will think of those next week.
We'll try to think of some sea fast.
Well, I will see you next week. I will see you next Tuesday. Yeah, no, so next week we'll talk about Scoob, which is exciting to me. Big fan.
It will be the first episode of Desk Pop Season 2.
Wow.
Which we did not even talk about that.
No.
We'll have to talk about that next week.
Yeah,
what a crazy journey this has all been.
This episode that we are going to post that right now is 52 episodes, which is really exciting, and that was kind of a milestone I wanted to get to. So we've been officially, publicly doing this for a year, which is cool.
Yeah, we've been operating in the shadows before, but
only using cameras for like the last 4 weeks. So, but yeah, I don't know.
It's not that bad. I looked at Ear Biscuits, and they only pretty recently started using video on their YouTube channel, which is like the who I've been looking up to as far as what to do, and as far as that's my inspiration for podcasting. So
It's my style inspo.
Yeah, I think like they got pretty far along before they started doing video. But anyways, so we'll have to talk. We'll have to talk about that next episode.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but if you like what you've heard today, listen to it again. Or you could, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on all major podcast platforms. How else did you find this?
Yeah.
Follow us on social media at DeskPopcast. And if you have any ideas on games we should try playing or topics we should talk about or whatever, give us a shout out at deskpopcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
So, yeah.
With that, I bid you adieu.
I bid you a don't.
We've done that before. Goodbye.
Yeah.